on your all-time hit station, Trace Radio 95.3. I am very, 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 very excited because these two ladies who I'm about to introduce to you have done an absolute beautiful thing. This is what we need. And of course, in a society that's quite patriarchal, right? This is the kind of, initiatives that definitely need to be given, light of day, right? Because so much happens and a lot of ladies are not celebrated in this society, yet so many ladies are doing amazing things. So I get to introduce a person who's a friend of mine who we sit and have conversations for literally just about anything. They can go from radio to juju to Victoria Falls, everything, literally. Adelle Onyango, and I'll let you introduce your friend because I've given you that kind of introduction. So now you need to introduce who you've brought to the studio.
Okay. First, good morning, Calvin.
Morning.
Everybody knows that we talk about juju. They're just like, hey, what businesses are you guys about to open? No, so it's great to be here. Speaking about not my podcast this time around, but a very awesome project.
Yes.
And I've brought you a friend whose name is Lanji Okuawori.
Uh-huh.
She is an amazing African woman who's doing a lot of, and Kenyan, who's doing a lot of impactful work when it comes to the legal space.
Yes.
When you're talking about matters sexual violence. And together we have co-authored a book. But first, Lanji.
Lanji, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Pleasure to have you in the studio with this remarkable co-author of yours.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. You're most welcome. Now, tell me how the book came about. Because did you guys know each other before? Were you guys fans of each other, or how did it come about?
I feel like
Those are two different loaded questions.
Yes.
What do we start with?
No, okay, so now we're sisters. We didn't know each other way before the book, but now we're sisters. But I'll let Lanji begin. Yes.
So I'll begin with the book.
Yes.
The book started out as a dissertation in 2017. Just listening to people and picking up different stories and researching. So I don't know if we should start by saying what the book is about.
Yeah,
do you want to do
feel
that?
free.
Yeah. So the book is really awesome. It's called Our Broken Silence, right? And basically what we're doing is breaking the silence when it comes to sexual violence. And it's a collection, so diary entry collections of stories by survivors of sexual violence, people in the periphery, in terms of different support pockets, So like family of survivors, nurses, people in the legal space. And it's not just looking at Kenya. So we're looking at East Africa, one. And then it's not just looking at now our generation, like these conversations that we're having now. It's looking at stories from pre-colonial times to present day.
Wow.
Right? It's not only looking at people who are English speakers, such as, ourselves in the studio.
Yes.
They are stories that have been translated from Kikuyu, Somali. So it's really one of the best deep dives into the issue around sexual violence that has ever been done. Obviously, I am biased, but yes. And because we don't have a book like this in existence. And I think it's important, one, for survivors to have this book, because then you feel less alone. You then are able to break your silence.
Yes.
And two, for anyone to have this book so that you understand two things. One, can you imagine that nothing has changed since pre-colonial times to present day? And two, then you read it and try and figure out, okay, what is my role in trying to end this?
Yes.
Because we don't want to be able to do Our Broken Silence part 2, you know what I mean? Like it has to end.
It has to end.
And so that's really what we're trying to do with the book. Yeah.
So pre-colonial, we're taking it back to all of those days, right? And of course, when you read what's it called? The British Gulag, right? And all the stories of what happened, so many different atrocities, which are actually not very well documented. That's like little, right?
Yeah.
And then how did you guys go that back, and where did you guys get the stories?
Okay, so now we get into the research and dissertation bit.
Yes.
So it started in 2017 as a dissertation for my postgrad at University of Chester.
Yes.
So we're trying to see to link how far misogyny goes, like in African societies. Have we always had it, or is it something new? Is it something Western? Because we talk about it being brought by the ships and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of research done on the Kesi community, how they handled rape. And if you're raped, you have to marry off the guy to kind of like for the shame to like die out,
to die
all
out,
that.
So we started masking it at that point.
Yeah, so it's
Yes.
something that started back in the day. And then what we're trying to do is to see how to decolonize SGBV, because it's again colonized in how it's handled. If you look at how it's handled in the health system, in the criminal justice system,
Yes.
it's something that's handled in a really colonial way. We don't handle it as Africans, for Africans. So it started in that angle, and then it just, to bring it out in a colloquial way to like the public,
Yes.
you don't give them jargon on research, yeah? So it made sense to have it in diary entries,
Yes.
in the voices of these people. So that's how we did the narratives and everything into diary entries.
Yeah.
I like the fact that, Adele, you said that you also included the systems around this, law professionals and all of these different kind of people. I want to get to it. Did you guys talk to the police?
Yes, I sigh because even my experience with the police was not the best, and I think quite a few survivors can say that. But I think it needs to be linked back as well to what Lanji said, and how it's really not decolonized. So even if you see the way police treat even everyday crimes, it's very aggressive, it's very forceful, it's very powered downwards, right? So the same way as if you're going to report, there's many problems, but let's start first with, you're going to report that you have experienced some form of sexual violence, right? Are they sensitized to be able to understand what a survivor needs in that moment?
Yes.
Are we then putting so much of the burden on the survivor who's going through a traumatic event to actually now walk this legal journey by herself, right? The other thing is we're looking at evidence collection and preservation in this country is damn near non-existent, right?
Exactly.
So what are you saying to survivors when it comes to reporting? Why am I reporting? Why am I going through this second re-trauma, right? If I'm not going to get justice, what's the point? But I just go to hospital, hopefully get therapy if you are privileged enough to afford it. And then the story ends. So even when we look at the police, it's like how we keep talking about police reforms in this country, but we talk about it lightly, and it's a lot needed in how they handle survivors. But even deeper than that, I think when it comes to like evidence collection and the preservation of evidence, there is literally little being done in that space.
Because I think in terms of the strides that have been made, I wouldn't say I know too much, but whenever I've been, seen the stories on Twitter, in the newspaper, and so many different blogs, how that whole disconnect, especially when it comes to reporting to the police, right? Because in my little information that I know, I believe that it should be one of the cases of where the police should go to the victim. Say, for instance, you've gone to a hospital. The hospital should be able to say, we've gotten this case. Why I'm saying that is because when you're shot, right?
Yeah.
Literally, the police come to the hospital, right? Because this is a crime that's been committed, you've been shot. So for rape victims, this is one of the things that we also need to push towards.
As a reform.
As a reform. Because here's the thing. This has happened, say for instance, in Kamukunji. You want this lady to go all the way to Kamukunji police station.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely a big issue, and
I think it trickles down to how do we view SGBV? It's a non-issue.
Yeah.
So being shot is like a heavy criminal thing.
Yeah.
You're Mucira, that's why you were shot. So I'm coming to find out why you were shot. But in other countries, it works as you're saying.
Yes.
Where the cop comes and sees you and your tests are done and everything. But you see the issue on forensic, like criminal forensics and everything, it's across the board all over the world. There's that backlog. And it's, again, patriarchy and misogyny.
Yeah.
You know, there are bigger issues too, bigger fish to fry than, you know, dealing with a rape victim and whatnot. In this book, we did not speak to a police directly. And again, that's another issue because what we're saying, what's included, like Adele is saying, are entries of survivors saying what they went through with the police. When we try to interview the police, they think you're attacking them. Yet we're doing all these trainings. But you know, Kenya is full of trainings because there's per diem.
Yeah.
Per diem is sweet.
It is. But, you know, we like to have both sides of the coin, right? Adele, from your experience years ago and talking to the different contributors to the book, would you say there's been positive impact in terms of, you know, the numbers? Have they decreased? Because we'll get to it in terms of, you know, what happened in 2020, right? But has there been impact? Has there been change in society towards, one, dealing with it? Have people stopped? You know, are the numbers as great as they used to be?
It's early in the morning and I hate being so like dark, but you know, the truth is important. I really don't think there's been a change. And the reason that I say that is, a change in the sense of like decreased numbers. There is a change in how this violence manifests, but I do not think there is a change in decreased numbers. And the reason I say this is there's still stigma around going to report it or even just speaking up about it. So it means even the numbers that we have to date are not a true reflection of what's happening on the ground, right? There are still people you would think with the internet and access to information. I mean, if you're on Twitter, if you're on a social media platform, it means you're like one tab away from Google, right? But you still have very many people who seem exposed, who seem educated, when you speak about these issues, openly saying you shouldn't be talking about this, or girls, why are you wearing this? Even just the rape culture that is perpetuated on social media, where a woman will put up a photo of her at the beach in a swimsuit or whatever, and a man will download it and Photoshop it, covering up covering up her body, and then they laugh about it and all of those things. This is the rape culture that probably before the internet would happen in different spaces.
Yes.
But it's with the internet and change in times, it now happens where we're seeing it every day and everybody thinks it's okay. These things directly contribute to creating an environment where more cases of sexual violence happen because we are okay with it. We see it as a non-issue, as Lanji said.
Yes.
I do not think we're at a space where survivors can openly share they've gone through this. That affects how many numbers that, the data, I do not think we're at a position where our government takes this seriously. The pandemic showed that we had one fully funded government shelter exclusively for women in the country. And that was in Makueni. That was 2020. That was in Makueni, not even Nairobi. The other shelters, if they're for women, there is an NGO partner funding it, or it's for women and children. Shelters are very different, right? So that already shows you it's a non-issue, because how can we have one in the entire country? And it was in Makueni, and it was relatively new. So it wasn't that, this one is, legacy shelter. No, it was relatively new. Another thing, we're in the election period. Please tell me one person who has spoken about women's safety and specifically about sexual violence. All we'll hear is Wamama na so and so. We don't hear somebody actually breaking it down to, hey, 1 in 3 women has experienced sexual violence by the time she turns 18. Nobody has said that. None. So has it changed? No. And I think it's even easier for people to get away with it now, you
actually make such a valid point. All I've had is agriculture, we shall do this.
Yeah. You never
promises
hear.
upon promises upon promises, right?
And then Wamama, we're just meant to be there to look pretty in the T-shirts and whatever, but not to talk about issues that actually kill us, literally kill us, which is sexual violence.
Wow. Now, the foreword of the book is actually written by the Chief Justice.
Yes.
That is actually quite noble in the sense that you guys have literally gone to the head of the judiciary, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like that's super spiritual, and that is actually going to be very, very important in terms of what we aim to do. Now, to people who want to get the book, Lanji, where can they get it?
We launched tonight.
Yes.
So it's not on sale until Friday afternoon. It's going to be at Greenhouse Mall. There's a bookshop there that we're Somanami.
It's called Somanami, but we would like people to come for the launch today. So as you said, it's going to be launched by the CJ Martha Kome.
Yes.
This is such a huge honor.
Huge.
She read the book before everybody else last year and just wrote such a powerful foreword. And you can tell she's very passionate about changing issues when it comes to sexual violence and women's safety in the country. So she'll be there later this evening. So we launch it at 6 p.m. Today at Macmillan Memorial Library,
yes,
which is on Banda Street in town. So we're taking it to the heart of Nairobi. And tickets are 3,000 bob and come with a book. So you can actually just come to Macmillan Memorial Library tonight at 6 p.m. The CJ will launch it. You can buy your ticket, get the book. We'll be there so we can sign it in case you're those who are like, people must know.
when I was prepping for the interview, I found out that you've been very instrumental in terms of, our broken voices, right? Mm-hmm. Our broken silence. Now, the proceeds from the book, where are they going? Tell the people.
Yes.
Because what I'm going to do, I might not be there for the launch, but literally, the minute this interview is done, I'm buying a book.
Awesome.
Yeah. My daughter and I are going to read it.
Oh, great.
How old is she?
She's 9 now, right? So I want her to,
that's important.
She's big in terms of reading of books, but more importantly, she's a young lady who's growing up. So I need for her to understand.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So the proceeds, tell me about it. Your organization, what you guys are doing, because that's absolutely beautiful.
So we both have two entities that are championing women's rights and particularly SGBV. So Kravid Mulia is a legal bureau, but we have another section. It's called Kravid Mulia Fund, and it's a recently registered fund it's a microfinance fund. It's going to be helping SGBV survivors and other maybe women in marginalized communities. I don't like the word marginalized, but yes, get financial aid through loans, through grants, and through legal aid as well.
Legal aid is very important.
Yes, because that's a gap already in accessing justice. And then the other part of the funds, because it's obviously 50-50, go to the Adelle Onyango initiative.
Yeah, so we have Safe 247. Our focus is psychosocial support. As I said earlier, therapy is so important, but it's so expensive in this country. Fun fact, your government spent 0.1% of their budget last year on anything mental health, just so you know. So we look at trying to connect survivors of sexual violence to free but quality psychosocial support. So we have a program, which is a free group therapy program for survivors. And basically you go through this for once a week for 14 weeks. And we created the syllabus with psychologists. And so the funds is to ensure that more survivors go through it. Our aim is to make sure that you don't even have to think about transport when you're coming. Like, you just need to show up.
Yes.
And we give you a toolkit to kind of help you even after the program deal with triggers. Because unfortunately, when you go through forms of sexual violence, your life is changed and you will need support throughout in navigating whatever will come your way because of this traumatic event. So that's the other side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, ladies, thank you very much for passing through the studio. Lanji, Adele, you guys are doing this absolutely. This is God's work, literally. I appreciate the fact that you guys have been brave enough to, create a platform, use both your platforms for the ladies. And of course, anytime you guys have anything that you want to do, trust me, we don't even need to ask anyone else. Just pull up. We got time for you guys.
And I have to say, I'm sorry, because I know radio, you might be going over, but I have to say thank you so much. It's so important for men in public public spaces or in media to actually lend their voices to things like this, because we are in a patriarchal society. So we do need your voices to speak out even louder than us.
Yes.
And so when you have us on your show, it's very important. And when you say you're getting a book and to read with your daughter, it influences another man who has daughter or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thank you to you as well.
No
Yeah.
worries. Anytime.